All right. My name is Calvin Bonner. I am the manager of the sales team here at Align. I was the fourth employee back in 2017, but our company was actually started in 2012 by some serial entrepreneurs and business consultants who were helping companies to scale their businesses and, most importantly, execute and communicate about the strategic plans they had created. Originally, we were created off of the scaling up methodology, and we do have the official software for scaling up, but we also work with other organizations and have other white labels and have plenty of clients who come from OKR backgrounds, all sorts of different other methodologies as well. So for today, what I'm planning on doing is just kind of running through a really high level overview of the tools, starting with the strategy, longer term kind of vision of the organization, and then going into how do we track our team's progress and execution on a quarterly basis and even down into, a weekly meeting or a monthly review. And then how do we actually get the team to push progress and make sure we're communicating in the right way? So we'll be fast today. I hope to keep this to around, 12 to 15 minutes to get through most of the major stuff of the tools. And then afterwards, we'll follow up with recording for those who couldn't attend, some more resources and information, as well as some things that you can just help kind of poke around the tools yourself. And then obviously we're always available. If you do have questions or have anything you want to come out to us individually, we're happy to have discussions and help you guys evaluate the tools. We've got an amazing team here that has helped hundreds of companies evaluate the software and onboarded successfully. Every one of our clients gets a dedicated account manager as well. So any questions you guys have as we're kind of running through it, please, like I said, feel free to raise your hand, shout out. Otherwise, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to briefly run us through how do we go from a long-term vision of a fast-growing organization and most importantly, ensure that our whole team is aligned and executing on those objectives on a weekly, monthly, and a quarterly basis. So what we see here is when you first log in, you're going to get a visual of your dashboard for your specific team. So on my company here, I log in and I see my leadership's three most important metrics. You can see this revenue and this employee onboarding time have these little icons here. Those show that they are integrated and pulling data into the system. So if you click into it, you can actually see day over day how we've been actually progressing our overarching goals here and how we've been decreasing that onboarding time. And then you can see where our targets are supposed to be and how we kind of set up these graphs. So everything's very customizable and flexible, but the goal here is to give some really nice, clean visuals and set the focus for our team. But before we can kind of decide, hey, what kind of objectives are we focused on? What are our key metrics? Most organizations come to us and they start with some sort of overarching strategic plan. So up here, we have all of the strategy documents from scaling up. The one that we'll look through here briefly today is the one-page strategic plan, which is really kind of the backbone of our tools. As we go through this, I won't dive too deep into the functionality of the one-page strategic plan. We do have a lot of resources on our website. I'm happy to share about the one-page strategic plan and just great strategy and goal setting processes in general. Our tools really focus on, once you've created that plan, the next 89 days of the quarter. How do we execute? How do we drive alignment? And how do we drive communication as a leadership team to ensure that everyone is tracking and pushing those objectives forward? It's very easy to get sucked into the operational tasks, the day-to-day. Our software is here as a place to take a step back and always keep a bigger picture vision of the organization. And most importantly, what I own as the long-term vision of the company is progressed. So you can see here, we've got our period. Now, this period is typically a quarter. This is a sandbox account, which, like I said, after the webinar, we'll send over some more information, including access. You guys can actually go in and poke around with some fake data in the tools. Typically, though, this would be 1/1 through 3/31, like within our organization at Align. And most of our clients, we track on a quarter-to-quarter basis. And this is going to be our period of execution. So what I'll go through really briefly is the one-page strategic plan format, starting with the foundation, things like your core values, your purpose, BHAG. But as I mentioned, we do work with a lot of companies who come from varying backgrounds, different methodologies. And so all these things are editable as well. You can change up the headers, change up things like that. Our tools, though, after you've created your foundation, are going to really help to hone in on the 1 year and the quarterly sets of goals and how we're aligning the team around those things. So you can see here, we've got our 3 to 5 year goals. I'm going to skip that just because it's very similar to our 1 year section. The 1 year section is the key metrics the company is trying to hit for the 1 year 2022 goals. So we've got 6 or 7 metrics here that we say we need to get done by the end of this year. Well, in order for us to achieve these 7 key metrics, we've also outlined 3 key annual initiatives that you can see here that we believe if we get these 3 things done in 2022, that's going to give us the best chance to hit these metrics and to scale the way that we're trending. So as you go through our tools, what you'll notice is the 1-year section and these annual initiatives will start to populate the other sections of the tool that we'll mainly focus on. So your 1-year goals will go over to your annual initiatives dashboard, and those will then break down into quarterly priorities that we'll look at on our priorities page, or quarterly rocks from scaling up, and the EOS and traction methodologies as well. So everything we're going to look through today really now is, once we have our 1-year plan, how do we align the team around the quarterly focuses? So once again, we break down those annual metrics into, now, if we're going to hit these goals by the end of the year, well, in the next 90 days, these are our projected metrics values that we're going to hit for each of those categories. What our tools then really start to do is we start to then say, well, out of all of these metrics, we're going to decide these 4 critical numbers: leads, referrals, and new customers are the most important ones. They're called our critical metrics. In the Scaling Up book, Vern describes it as, if you think about all the metrics across your organization, like dominoes lined up, what are the 3 to 4 most important ones, or even the number 1 critical metric that if you get that one done, it starts to knock down all the other ones behind it. So we believe if we get this many new leads and referrals and new customers and revenue, well, the other metrics that we're focused on are always going to fall into line. These critical numbers that we've decided for this quarter are going to appear on my company dashboard. And then on my dashboard, I'll also have my individual priorities and the company priorities. And these are going to be quarterly objectives that are helping us to achieve all of those metrics and strategy that we've looked at. Everything else we're going to look at today is really within the context of that quarter. So you can see here again is that little bit wonky quarter with the sandbox account. That would typically be 1/1 through 3/31, or just depending on when you do your planning. And so now when I log into my dashboard, I see my leadership management metrics compared to my company dashboard, where we have those new leads, referrals, customers, and revenue, which were our most important critical numbers for the company as a whole. And we've also got our company priorities here. We're going to dig more into the priorities as well, but this is a really simple visual that shows you these are the weeks of our current quarter. And of course, are we red, yellow, or green for on track to get those done for each week? So right now you can see for our company goals, we're in the green on 3 out of the 4. Whereas this one, if you hover over, you can see we are, within 10% of being on track, but slightly behind. We'll go back to my dashboard in a second, and we'll kind of look at the other things, because my dashboard is also, as an individual contributor, my hub of execution. So I can go through and I can see, what do I own as an individual? Here's my daily huddle update that'll go to my huddles here, or even my weekly huddles that we'll look at some more. And then I've got my tasks and, of course, my company individual priorities. So these are the quarterly objectives that I own as they relate to the overarching strategy of the business. But you'll notice like 520 sales qualified leads. That one right here and all of these are connected to the priorities page, which is within the context, again, of this quarter. This is the real alignment hub of all of the different priorities we're working on this quarter. And of course, how we're achieving them, how we're getting them done. So you'll notice the first 4 are company priorities. Those are the ones that we've designated, during our planning session as the absolute necessities for us to get our whole company aligned. These are the 4 most important objectives that we need to get done this quarter to hit our critical metrics, to achieve our 1-year goals, and even to achieve those annual initiatives that are on our annual initiatives dashboard that we looked at briefly. These 4 priorities each have different measurements of success. And you'll notice they each have a little gray button here on the side, which is the number of related priorities beneath it. So for instance, you can see these percentages, and these things here are the drivers of what's measuring each of these goals. We want every goal to be measurable. We want it to be time bound, and we want to make sure we're pushing it, progressing it each day or each week of the quarter. So for instance, we notice our marketing goal here is in the yellow. Well, that's because, we are only, we're about 58% to goal, and we're a little bit over 60% of the way through our quarter. So that means we're slightly behind track. You can see this is measured by a KPI, and this actually integrates with Salesforce. So if you click in, the data is updated automatically each day, and you don't have to go in and update metrics specifically. If you can integrate them through our metrics page, or you can connect numbers to each other. So if I update it in one place, it'll update on my dashboards and even in my meetings, etc. As we go through our quarterly goals, though, you'll notice they break down into the subsequent related goals. So in order for us to achieve this overarching company goal, I'm the person who's accountable for this higher level metric, but these people are responsible for the smaller aspects, pushing it forward and driving the execution as well. Each of these is measured in a different way through either a KPI, through tasks, which obviously, as we build out action-based tasks, a task within our system should take 5 minutes to 5 hours, and it should be very strategic. We don't want to have 1,000 different tasks in here, and we're using this as a task sheet like you might have for your operational focuses. These tasks should be something that are related to a company priority, and most importantly, there's something the whole team needs information on whether I've gotten that done or not. So once we've created our one-year objectives, we've created our longer-term strategy even with that one-page strategic plan, and we've really created the alignment within the quarter. We then break these down, we measure them by KPIs, tasks, or the last one we can do is also a summarization. So for instance, this training program is a roll-up priority. That means the 67% is just an average of the 83, 60, and 60, which are the related priorities beneath it. So as we go through this and we look on this once a week, we'll get a Monday digest report that'll show everyone in the organization how they're doing. Are they red, yellow, or green, and what they need to focus on this week. You can see this is an example of what will be attached in that Monday digest report. And then the next piece that we hopefully like to see is getting the team into a daily or a weekly huddle to drive communication. As management team and as leaders, it's very important to create the strategy, but it's even more important to make sure that each of our teams are communicating about the most important stuff. One of the biggest things that we see is that organizations, even those who set really great quarterly goals, often struggle to keep their teams focused on the right things. When we get into a weekly meeting, you can see I've got a few different ones here, like Mark and I have a one-on-one. I've got my leadership weekly review and my marketing meeting. A lot of times organizations use spreadsheets or project management systems to conduct those meetings and to give updates. And oftentimes what we hear is it becomes very operational, very in the weeds, very focused on the nearest fire or whatever the flavor of the week is. The purpose of our tools is to allow, obviously, for those fires and the deep operational work is always going to happen. But Align is a place, and Scaling Up Scoreboard are a place to come back and take a step and say, well, with everything going on this week, I still need to drive these 4 company priorities forward. So every meeting, we are going to then select groups of dashboard metrics, groups of quarterly rocks that we want to review with each specific team or each specific meeting. And then, of course, we can pull in different agenda items, things we want to talk about, prompts that we'd like our team to answer, and so forth. So for instance, I might log in and, as a member of the leadership team, I notice that we're in the yellow on our marketing goal. Well, that's something that I'd like to address in our marketing and our leadership meeting. So I might tag it with both. But for today, I'm just going to bring it up in our leadership meeting because that's happening on Tuesday at 3 o'clock. I'll get an email alert or a Slack alert that says, hey, don't forget to fill out your daily or your weekly huddle. And then I can actually come in and we just tag this goal to get pulled into our leadership meeting here. So as you go through each different meeting, and I'll show you a little bit behind the curtain here of how you create a meeting, we've got a bunch of templates that are default types of meeting styles that we find high growth and really well-achieving, executing, communicating companies typically utilize, but our system is very flexible. And you can always create your own agendas, your own prompts, and we encourage you to do so with the help of our onboarding staff. So as you go through this tool here, you can see we've got our leadership tag. We've got our 3 metrics for our leadership team, and here's the leadership members. We've got our talking agenda on the left. We've got parking lot items, which are things that I want to talk about, but might not be addressed in this meeting. They're going to carry over meeting to meeting. And so you can see I can scroll forward or backwards and see what was talked about in previous leadership meetings. You can see Calvin, that's me. I've updated my weekly huddle. Mark, Miguel, and Katie have not done so just yet. But Calvin, if you click on his name, you can see I've got good news, department updates, and what I need help with. Those are just made up prompts for this specific leadership meeting. And then we've got our tagged priorities. I just went in and I tagged that 520 marketing qualified leads goal because in the 10th week, we're in the yellow. So that's something I want to address with the leadership team. And in fact, during the meeting, I might come in here and I might say, you know what, Miguel, you and I for next week, we should really get together and review our Google Ads conversions. Make sure we can't optimize some things to increase those leads. As we're getting to the end of the quarter, being in the yellow, it starts to get a little bit close to the finish line. We want to make sure we're driving focuses and we're driving actions. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to assign this task to Miguel, who is our marketing associate, and I'm going to assign it for next week's meeting on the 29th, which is not a real date, on the 28th. And I can create visibility if I'd like only certain people to see that. And most importantly, though, I can align this task with a quarterly objective. So I come in, I align it to my 520 sales qualified leads, assign it to Miguel with the due date, and I save. Now, next week, when Miguel comes in here, we will be able to go in and we'd be able to see this week's or next week's tasks for him, and everybody's able to keep week over week focus on the right things and driving that execution. As you go through this tool, one of the most important things that I find is that no matter how great you set your goals, an awful goal or an amazing goal is only valuable if the team understands we need to push it forward. And it's only actually valuable if we're getting together and talking about it. So one of the most important parts of our tool is the weekly or the daily huddle, because it gives you the opportunity to make sure the goals are staying top of mind. And as management, that's very difficult to talk to all of your team members every day and say, hey, don't forget about this. So the tool helps send out notifications, sends out the alerts about the weekly meeting updates, and of course, that digest report that we looked at here, which gives you really simple red, yellow, green if you're on track, as well as what is your pace? Are you ahead or behind schedule to get that goal done for the current quarter? As we go through the tools, though, these weekly meetings or the daily meetings, which we can also look quickly here at the daily huddle, which has a few different pieces. Like for instance, we've got different metrics we review, obviously a larger group of people. And we've got some really nice, simple tools like what's the number one thing you promised to get done today? And what was the number one thing you promised to get done yesterday? This is all mobile app accessible as well through iOS and Google. So you can really do this on the run. A lot of people actually bring their mobile phone into a stand-up, or of course, if you're joining remote, we've got our nice Zoom link right here where you can cycle through your different meetings and quickly join with the click of a button. Overall, what we find, though, is that companies that set goals typically only execute on them when they create the alignment, you create ownership with the priorities here, and then most importantly, we get together to talk about what's been going well, what's been going wrong, and what we need to change this week and next week and the week after so we can achieve our goals quarter over quarter, and eventually we can hit all those nice strategy goals and long-term vision goals that we've set up here in our strategy documents. Those typically are the most important areas that we like to go through on a general demo. There's a lot of other tools and features that we have in here. For instance, we have an amazing culture section for things like our employee net promoter score, an easy way to keep tasked and keep a number on, are our employees engaged? Are they happy? We've got surveys, announcements, all sorts of different things like that to actually get information out to the team. And we have suggestions so our team can give information back to the leadership about things they'd like to see, all of which is anonymous. After we've kind of gone through most of these sections, the other thing I'd like to show you really quickly is our company dashboard, because things like our alignment index, which gives you an idea of how well aligned all of our quarterly rocks are. And here's the ENPS that I was talking about, employee net promoter score, to make sure we've got a happy, engaged team. And we can set benchmarks and see how many people we have that are promoters and passives in the organization. That way, we're always keeping a pulse on the culture and just overall engagement with the team. Everything else within our system and all like the task sheets, all these things can be filtered and you can go in and really, dive very deep. But once again, this is not a system for a million different tasks. It's supposed to be very high level. It's supposed to be, most importantly, allowing management and leadership to drive the focus across the organization. So as I mentioned today, I am going to send not only a recording of the call today in case you want to share with any of your team members. We'll also put together some resources and info, and we'll send that out first thing tomorrow. Like the Sandbox account, we'll also put in a coupon for those who attended and registered for up to $250 off any of our subscriptions. And of course, we'll put all the ability for you guys to contact us and reach out should you want to have individual questions. And of course, our website, we've got a chat feature, which is always a real person. We're very accessible via email, phone call, anything we can do to help. As I said, though, the main focuses here of the tool really are about driving daily execution, making sure the leadership team's focuses on the right communication, and our tools typically help companies adopt methodologies, most importantly, execute more consistently. every single quarter. So thank you all so much for joining us today. I am going to follow up, like I said, with my team tomorrow with some more resources. And if there's anything else anybody needs, please feel free to reach out either through our website or through the email tomorrow. We'll look forward to talking to you all soon. Thanks so much. Hope you all have a great day.